in. Line up those problems and confront them, face them, fight them.
Well, line up those problems, face them, fight them, and be relentless. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Guguletu Tlaba. I'm your host on this Amandla Mnoto platform. I'm very happy that you are able to join us this evening in terms of this, our usual very unique sessions every Sunday at 5 o'clock. So thank you for joining us once again. And as we wait for others to come in, we have clocked 70 already. And I'm sure others are still going to join us in numbers, but we are going to have to start in respect of time. Today, our session is a very interesting one. We've got our brother, who is our regular here. That is Mr. Thami Klassen. They'll be starting the next 5 or so minutes. We are dealing with the economies in rural areas. And it's very exciting for those that were part of our conference last weekend. As you would all know, that we did not have a session then, simply because we're hosting our very important conference on Africa Awakening, where we hosted Dr. Umar Johnson Ifatunde, Bishop Joshua Maponga, Penuel, and many others who were grand speakers that were able to really enthuse us and excite us and help us to see a far more bigger and better world. Thanks to the members of Amandla Mnoto. I saw quite a lot of you. Actually, we were forming almost 30% of the conference because we had announced it very, very late. And so therefore we had to ensure that we sponsor tickets of a number of those that wanted to come. And thank you indeed. I hope you were excited as I was. And saw a lot of you asking many good questions and engaged all the way through to almost 11 o'clock, which was quite phenomenal. Truly appreciate you for always being there. So you may have picked up that the rurality, which is what we are driving here on this platform, was more emphasized. And I think Bishop Mabonga was even more excited to say, the chickens have come home to roost. You can hear that. You can't just leave rural areas. You've got to be able to work the land. And that was exciting again to have some people testifying to that. The lady who spoke on mining and spoke on some fantastic concepts, who is living in the UK. We are going to be, actually we're engaged already with her because we wanted to come over here and be part of the winds of change, as the theme of the conference was. And Dr. Buyani Zwane was phenomenal as well. And Marcia Daniels talking about monetizing of your assets and terminology such as in-ground asset monetization. Engineer Madela and many engineers who are here on this platform. It was amazing. And I tell you, if you had heard this, the loan to value issues that were spoken about here, especially for our mining engineers and all other engineers who are very seized with these issues, and how to make money really monetizing your assets before you even extract them from underground. These are the things that we'll be engaged with going forward in terms of our rural economic development. So today, I thought, let me just give you a recap. It was Marcia Daniels and it was Bishop Mponga, of course, who really spoke very passionately, as always, about the system that has not changed and the religion that has taken too much time, money, and that we need to redefine our religion, and that we are the only people whose religion does not serve our political agenda. Buyani Zwane spoke and affirmed very, very fundamental issues. He spoke actually about the acronym FLIP, which is focus, listen, involve, and personalize. I hope my colleagues who are recording can share that with you so that you can really indulge, because we want you to learn and get excited like we are excited. And Dr. Uma Johnson, Ifatunde, you know him. He just takes over the stage and literally arrest your minds and focus and channel them in a particular direction for us to really get emancipated all around. So it was that exciting. So tonight, without further ado, I want to, we've got announcements to make right at the end, and quite a lot of things to really talk about, which we believe are very, very important for you to understand, because we are busy consolidating our platform and making sure that our platform is able to serve you properly. Thami, I'm not sure if you are here already, my brother, but if you are here, I want to start with you, and I'll
Yes,
get that.
I am.
Oh, that is beautiful. Mr. Thami Klassen is my brother and friend of many, many years. And we have introduced him here on this platform. He's a chief director of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. It used to be the DTI, now the DTIC. He's the chief director on rural matters in the country, focusing obviously on certain provinces, and as he will be able to give that to us. So we do have his profile on this platform, as we always invite him and thank him for really taking his time on weekends, his family time, to come and address us. Sometimes it's a difficult issue to get people who work for government to come over weekends and address us. It takes a special person to do that. It takes somebody who knows that they are working beyond the normal call of duty, who knows that theirs is to impact and empower people beyond their normal time, because we are in this situation that we're in right now because of a number of problems that we're having in our country, and one of which is the one that we're dealing with here, the economy. And we believe that entrepreneurship and starting businesses, employing people, gives them dignity, and it's able to help them a lot, and thus being able to address a number of problems that we have in our societies. Mr. Klassen, I don't want to bore much of my colleagues here. I want you to please take it on and just give us what is in your heart about issues of the rural economy. I don't need to guide you here. You speak these things when you are asleep, and you just take us and drive us and give us guidance and direction, even as to how do we engage with you at the DTIC. Because what I've noted over time, just before you come on board, is many people do not know about what's happening within these very important departments. And we tend to talk a lot and complain that things are not happening and all of that jazz. And yet, information is out there, and these departments are there to serve us. And there's so much, but people do not really take advantage of that. Over to you, Mr. Klassen. Thank you so much.
Ngiyabonga nonkosi. Good afternoon or evening to all of the listeners and people who have joined in. I would assume that I'm going to add value, to the very fruitful past engagements, especially last week, as we are referring to the session you've had with the so prolific speakers such as Maponga, Dr. Omar, and Penwell. I think, I've got to live up to that. I will try and live up to those expectations. But my name is introduced, it's Thami Klassen. Sometimes my former Deputy Minister Gina Malungelo used to say that when I'm introduced, people must not take it for granted that I don't know isiZulu, or Xhosa. Klassen can be deceiving. So yeah, just for the listeners, nginguvambane igqwirha ubharha ngokwesiduko kwemvelaphi yami. NgingumXhosa, kodwa ke ndingumntu umfumbo, ndingumbonam, ndingumnguni, so that we should understand each other. We relate to the issues of land, and thankfully so, as we always want to acknowledge those who are forebears, because we are here because of their purpose. We are in this land and we've got to discuss these critical things about our land, about our origin, because of the importance thereof. We have to reclaim, redress all the things that have been misconstrued, misappointed, misappropriated during the past eras and generations. And hence now, I think the DTIC's focus as well, and many of the state departments having to address this issue about rural economy. The DTIC, I am acting chief director responsible for regional industrial development, which also encapsulates the following industrial parks. Those are state-owned industrial parks, but we also are involved in making sure that we address also the issues of private industrial parks. If I touch the area of industrial parks, they are not necessarily an urban phenomenon. Urban parks, my industrial parks, they are also issues that touches on making sure that we bring in the rural economy into the mainstream of the broader economic issues. You would remember that these state-owned industrial parks were the parks that were in the so-called homelands. When you go to the Eastern Cape, you find those. When you go to KZN, you go to Limpopo, you found those. You go to the former Bekuta now Northwest, you found those, and also in the areas like in Mpumalanga, like Ekandashe. So there are a lot of those, and their key focus was to address, of course, the issue of the upscaling in terms of the skills and providing for job opportunities during the time of the homeland apartheid system. And those, of course, parks through the years post 1994 and further on, they were not well taken care of by those who were then entrusted with that responsibility of making sure that we have these parks continuing with the focus of skilling people, providing for jobs through the incentives that we or would be made available by the state then. So through that, we've seen, of course, a dwindling support in these, and these parks then need our attention. You know, for example, the very prominent one is in KZN is the Isitebe one. We've got that Thami, we've got Ezakeni, Newcastle. So we've got a number of these, and most of them, as you'd see, they address and they have to deal with rural opportunities, creating rural opportunities for our people. The focus of these over the years, of course, has declined in terms of providing for jobs. We've seen quite a lot of people disinvesting in terms of the big multinationals that used to be key investors and anchor investors. We used to see guys who invested in doing electronic projects like refrigerators, televisions, and things like that. But over the years, of course, like I'm saying, we've seen a big migration of these companies into the more modernized. Of course, there's the DTIC, of course, we also have for the special economic zones that have all been opened up beyond the port, I think, competitiveness, but also into inland provisions. Through those industrial parks, I think we are now trying to say, how do we arrest this migration and reverse it by providing the most needed opportunities for these industrial spaces? Things that could be found there could be agro-processing facilities, you could beyond that, clothing and textile, and with the oncoming interest, I think, around the hemp and the cannabis story, we would need, of course, assets or properties that would be fit for delivering the purpose of those manufacturing opportunities. So as a result, then we are aggressively involved in making sure that we create opportunities well around and through provision of infrastructure that's able to attract investments, but that's also able to give opportunities to the rural communities, SMEs, in respect of that, so that they can be brought in there. But the third element as well is also that we want to continue with this, the drive of making sure that the industrial parks are working well, so that we can be able as well to give skills and opportunity for artisans to do and look at different products. We also have got another, I think, offering that we are now making sure that we are focusing on it, which is the digital economy. Digital economy, of course, does not only help people in the urban communities or in the competitive metro areas, but also in the rural communities, noting that, of course, people in the rural space who are doing agriculture and agro-processing need traceabilities of those produce that they are developing or harvesting there. You would know that the value chain demands that the standardization of some of the products, it demands that, so that you can be competitive in offering some of your products to the market. So it is a very important feat, this one of industrial parks. Sometimes, of course, you can use the term interchangeably with the agro or agri parks as well, because the agri parks and agri and industrial parks, they serve one and the same purpose. So we have mainstreamed our offering with regards to that, with the rural development and land reform colleagues as well, with agriculture nationally, and also working with some of the provincial departments of agriculture. The second part that I'm also responsible for, of course, focuses on what I'm calling a rural economy. In rural economy is that we work with different initiatives, whether they be clustered along certain common commodity production, or also looking at value chains and how those would as well get opportunities to market and sell their goods in terms of market access. But not only that, but also giving opportunities to make sure that we do now find equitability at work by addressing the issues of transformation. Most of these industries and sectors, they are not transformed in terms of where they source their markets. They still continue to source their goods from the most, I think, common, industries or common companies, as opposed to them going down into rural communities where there are very good products that are coming out from there. So we also look into that in terms of focusing, working in the economy of the rural space, looking at the economics thereof, helping through our coordination and linkage, working with different departments, making sure that we do voice out what we see on the ground and create opportunities and solutions together with the other departments into saying, how do we help our people reach the market, sell competitive products, have their products standardized, so that they limit the barriers into entry for any opportunity to sell their products, whether nationally in these investment in companies that are most likely to get their products into their shelves, or also taking their products overseas. The other responsibility is the township economy. I'm mentioning these so that you can have at least an understanding that when we talk about economy, we have to talk about the ecosystem and not talk about or speak about the economy in terms as separate cycles, But however, our view and our passion is that we should always look at systematic approach. We look at, break down all the activities that happen around this development of the economy. We look at how can the value of industrial park contribute to making sure that value chains address issues of transformation. We address the issue of bringing new enterprises into the market or the mainstream of the market. We also look and focus systematically on the issues that involve rural economy. I'm sure you've touched on it, some of these issues around the rural economy. It doesn't only satisfy the issue of agriculture, but also there's quite a lot of the mining issues and opportunities. South Africa will still be a mining country in the long term. It is mining that got us to be where we are, as a country. And of course, by way of the wealth of the endowment that we have through good soils. And though we are a landlocked country, but we still have got the ability to have rains and harvest rains and produce quite a lot of good products, which are good for the overseas markets. And I'm sure you can see the interest there. Hence, why we need to make sure that we bolster our ambitions to have a very competitive rural economy that's able to look beyond these sectors. The last one, like I have said, is the township economy. You would know that most of the people migrate into the township simply because township usually have got better, I think, infrastructure in terms of electricity, roads, in terms of water, systems, and many other systems and energy power. So those issues are those elements that attract a lot of people, whether they're coming from other continents, from other countries in the continent, but they migrate towards the urban areas, the urbanized areas. And most, as you would know, the pattern is that a lot of Black people still are residing in the townships. And that's where you find a lot of consumer-based economy. It's services. There's a lot of money that exchanges hands there. But we haven't been able to master into how we can maximize the opportunities that we have in terms of our consumption levels or consumption base. And we need to do that. We need to up the game. So the issues around the township economy seeks to make sure that we have an economy that is owned by the people that generate and derive value out of that. So we need to create valuable products that not only emanate in the township, whether they ultimately are found to be used in the township, but our desire is to make sure that the rural economy does contribute and take its products and goods and commodities into those township stores. I mean, it's a known factor that the known brands of big companies would not necessarily go into the rural community and ask for a processed produce or commodity to sell in its stores. They would demand quite a lot of things before they can do that, which oftentimes the rural community is not yet to meet those standards that are set. So if we then develop new markets opportunities, it would be like we're creating new money. And this is our desire. The new money that we need to create should act like a blockchain, where you know that you've got processing facilities in terms of rural or industrial parks and agri parks. Those will be fitted in by both private and government offerings in terms of infrastructure. But also you then find that the rural communities could be the one that are generating, adding value to those products through their packaging or processing facilities, packaging, putting those things into the streets so that we make sure that those produce ultimately find traction in the stores that are sprawling all over the township communities. You know that we've got so many malls that are in the township communities, but the story, again, is sadly that very few of those stores are in the Black hands or local hands. So hence our desire that we need to see every one of these produce that is generated, finding its force into the stores themselves that are Black owned, but also you finding and making sure that there is a transformed mentality in terms of who produces these goods. We should have that ability. I think also what's worth mentioning is the interest in the state's ambition also to take, I think, the opportunity that's there. I'm sure many of you know about the effect of the carbonization of the environment, and of course what we need to do to decarbonize. Decarbonization is not as complex as often sometimes we make it to be in terms of talking about it, but it is just a simple thing. How do we displace the carbon that we always see going out into the big factories in the urban and industrial spaces. How do we ensure that we offset that carbon that goes out? Through trees, of course, we've got greens that come, or mostly the products that are the areas that are able to trap that carbon. You would find that trees, greens are found in the rural economy. There's an issue as well called carbon credit, which is exactly what we need and what we need to maximize the potential of making or monetizing some of the offerings as we do them in the rural space. So those are some of the activities that in our initiatives as the DTIC, working towards making sure that the economy is diversified through making provision and opportunities in the rural economy, but not only in the rural economy, but also in the other value chain and networks that we have through the investments, through the opportunities of those that are first time coming into these markets, and making sure that we are also up to the game in terms of providing for a digital platform through which it is the next era of a change economy that we are seeing. People are not going to be dependent on the, a 30-day. People want things in 7 days, less than that, there must be a dashboard. They are going to decay if not, they've got to trace where they come from, etc. So those things need us to be able to respond to them through digitization. And lastly, then, through this decarbonization effort, where we look at saying the rural communities are actually at the moment underrated in terms of how key a role they can play towards a decarbonization of the spaces of the industrial spaces. Carbon credits can be sold into the big companies, not only in South Africa, but a project that owns, I'm just making an example, 10,000 of hectares, growing a certain type of trees, which is responsible for offsetting a certain number of carbon equivalents from the atmosphere and transferring those into money. They can be able then to sell those to those companies overseas and they deal with in terms of earnings through a dollar of cross exchange rate at that, which is quite beneficial. But very few companies and very few projects are currently playing into that space. It is something that we need to really focus on. It's an opportunity. It's not a matter of whether we believe in it. There is currently mechanisms that are in place where people are dealing with carbon credit. And I would urge that we need to play such a big role of that. I know that in some of the platforms we have shared similar thoughts and ideas. But I think lastly, I would end by that we need to also, and I think through Amandla Omnotho, really practicalize this thing of blockchains. Blockchains are really transforming the industries because, like I'm saying, they are creating new money. And this new money is based on a group of people that trust each other in terms of their products, in terms of buying from each other, in terms of giving service to each other. So it's like people are now trading, which is the basics 101 of economy, actually, which is based on bartering. People trust each other, they barter together, they exchange goods, and they find value in it. So we need to go into that system where we are able now to understand and deal with these issues in simple terms, as I think we are presenting through these systematic approaches differently oftentimes, but the voice is still that we have to see transformation. We have to see ourselves really making a mark in terms of changing the overall economy in the rural space, in the townships, and also through what government is offering and attracting investments into that space. So that would be my scope, Nonkosi, and friends for this evening. And I would be glad to take whatever maybe questions and approach you'd love to take. Nonkosi.
Thank you so much, Vambane. Truly appreciated you. You gave us a lot to chew on. And I'm sure my colleagues are sitting here just thinking seriously about how to engage you, because what you are talking about of importance for me is the fact that if government has decided to follow this trajectory of agri-parks and industrial parks, of the economy as an ecosystem, focusing on township economy, creating valuable products, as you have said, carbon credits as well. The business that is not very much familiar in our spaces. I asked one young lady, I know I'm putting you on the spot, DC. You are here because I know you are so into this business. I'm just going to have to allow you to speak and have something to say on the carbon credit stuff that without exposing, of course, your IP, but just to talk, if you can, about that, because I think the DTIC is having support in that space. I'm sure Engineer Mandela, with many of the people that you work with, the carbon credit space is something to be exploited. In one of the WhatsApp group that Engineer Mandela and others have created, we're sitting with executives of Sasol and many other people in that particular group. And it's quite fascinating that we don't make use of those resources that are at our disposal. What does this exactly mean? Do we just plant trees? How do I plant a tree and claim the carbon credit? How do I work with an industry that is emitting a lot of carbon dioxide? How do that type of an environment functions for me as an entrepreneur interested in that space to plug in and be able to extract value in terms of this carbon credit? How do I link this up with international companies? A lot of companies and countries are making zillions of dollars now through this same carbon credit phenomenon. I think it's something that we may need to revisit and really get to learn more about it, because I see a lot of things are just moving up above many of our heads and without really us being educated more about them. Like the AI right now, my biggest fear in the next 3 years, new jobs will come, but a lot of old jobs will just be vanished. And these are things that may seem very small, but their impact is far-reaching and it's very big and sometimes very negative, especially for people who are not prepared for such. DC, would you like to say something on the issue of carbon credits and all that? Okay, so DC, I'm sure I'm sure she's not here yet, or whatever happened to her. But Thami, I'm sure you get my drift on that, because that's something that I think we need to teach more our people about these carbon credits, like the blockchain. Many people are just, I know we've got our colleagues here, Charles from the US is here. I know Brother Charles and Brother Joe, we still have a lot of work to do. Based on our agreement and what we said we would do, even when it comes to blockchain. So I think it's things that we must teach ourselves as to how these things work, because you see people really making money and creating wealth, and they're using the very same new instruments, new in a sense that not many people don't know about them, and many people just run away from them in their minds. All they want to do is and something that they know. But we need to shake our nest and move out of our comfort zone to really get to learn these things and become students of life every day, every moment, and find out what this means. How do we participate in this? Thami, would like to weigh in on that as I'm waiting for questions. Please, anyone with a question, you're most welcome to raise your electronic hand there, or just put it on the chat box. Please, you are most welcome. We want to engage you. I see 2 hands already, 3 hands already. They are coming fast and furious. Maybe let's start as per the order and ask Sipho Mahlobo and go to Engineer Mandela as well as Thabo Madejwa. Thanks, Brasipo.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Nonkosi, angazi noma ngiyezwakala ngibingelele kubhuti uKlassen nabo bonke abethamele umhlangano namhlanje. Ngiyajabula ukuthi ubhuti uKlassen uthe isintu uyasizwa. Nonkosi ngizongixela mfowethu kimi kuhumsheka kangcono uma ngikhuluma ngesintu sakithi uzathi uma ephendula-ke noma engasebenzisa isilungu akusena nkinga. Kodwa engikuthathe kakhulu kubhuti uKlassen ilokho kokuthi kwenziwe izinto from ama-basics njengalokhu ukuthi imiphakathi ihwebe yona ndawonye futhi ngamanye amagama uma kulento yomnotho wasemakhaya abantu abathile benombono wokulima mhlambe bathengise kodwa babheke ispace esikhona endaweni nokuthi abanye mabenza lokho abanye benze kube khona lokho kuhwebelana. Kodwa engifisa ukukwazi kahle ngomnyango ukuthi umnyango ungenelela kuphi. Ngikhuluma njengomuntu ochitha isikhathi eside edolobheni kodwa ngokuhlangana nabafowethu abathile kuney'ndawo esiyihlonzile endaweni ethile esemakhaya la ubuka khona ukuthi ey'ndaweni ey'thile ney'thile kukhona esingakwenza ngokwehlukana. Kodwa ukuba inselelo lokhu kokuthi iy'nsiza zokwenza kuhambe kukhona esingazenzela khona. Kodwa kukhona la ubuka khona ukuthi uma kungaba khona usizo lokusiza ngenza isibonelo njengento ephathene namanzi. Kukhona ezinye iy'ndawo ey'dinga ukuthi udonse amanzi ndawana thizeni wasondeze eduzane. Nokuthi kukhona futhi iy'tshalo ey'thile ey'dinga ukuthi ube ney'nsiza ezisondela kubo lokuxhakaxhaka bama-electronics akathi ukukhuluma nabo ubhuti uKlassen. Ngifisa ukusheka ukuthi umnyango i-DTIC kukhona yini usizo osondela nalo kubantu asuke beyigruphe ngaleyo ndlela. Kukhona umsebenzi abayenzayo ukuthi mhlambe la ngathi bashoda khona ngokwey'nsiza zokwenza umsebenzi mhlambe kube khona usizo luba khona. Ngiyathokoza kakhulu Nonkosi.
Siyabonga kakhulu mfethu Sipho. Ngicela nje Thami umane uphendule lo mbuzo quickly so that somuvela kweminye u4 elandelayo.
Yeah, umnyango we-DTIC usebenzisana kakhulu no Department of Small Business through ama-cooperatives, but also siyakwazi ukuthi sinama-agencies ayi-2 u-IDC no-NEF. Through bona siyakwazi ukuthi si-reach out to those that are grouped together, whether as clusters, but as long as there is a case that can be supported and indicated so that it is viable for us to support. Yes, it can be supported. Those are some of the things that the DTIC, together with its partners, work towards in assisting our enterprises and also through cooperatives working together with different clusters or investors.
Okay, Butabo, sorry, Butsipo, I'm sure ukuthi uzwile uma I'm sure Mr. Klassen uzosinikeza futhi ama details wakhe ukuthi ucontacteka kanjani so that we don't just end here but you can then follow through with him so that if you already have organized yourself you can be able to follow through with whatever request that you may have, right?
Of course.
Thank you so much. Siyabonga kakhulu mfethu. Asiye kumfoka Madela. Engineer Madela.
Sanibonani Nonkosi ninjani nani enikhona la kulo mhlangano. Kuyezwakala Nonkosi.
Loud and clear.
Okay, now mfowethu ngicela ukubingelela uMadela lo Engineer Madela. Ngizocela Nonkosi maybe 4 minutes because I also have to clarify indaba yama carbon credits. Ama-carbon credits ahambe South Africa aba linked to Just Energy Transition Investment Plan. Kwenzeka-ke ba-allocate ama-amounts around a number of sectors that are related to whatever speak to ama-carbon credits, energy, agriculture, water, community development project. There was a grants register, a grant register document.
Sorry, Madela, please can you unmute yourself? Madela.
Nonkosi, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay. So kwahamba ke those carbon credits zaba linked into a Just Energy Transition Investment Grant Pro register. Ngizowa forwarda futhi kuwena Nkosi, but it looks like amaningi they were exhausted, and when they got exhausted, the very same overseas companies they line themselves to be the beneficiaries zakhona. And Yvette's Business School did talk about this, and one lady produced a video to say 80% of what was meant to be carbon credit accruing to South African companies actually went back to the very same overseas companies. But I don't want to labor the point on that. I'm saying quite clued up in that area. Maybe we can have a dedicated session where we speak in context of what exactly is inside the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan with regards to rural economic development, because the only space that is available for the so-called renewable energy is precisely in the rural areas. But again, because it looks like we may have to have a separate session.
Yes.
And then coming to my two questions, in fact, three. Mr. Klassen, I'm going to have to ask outside this meeting about the Carbochem Industrial Park in Newcastle, because you do remember when former DG Lionel October asked you to come there, we had a meeting there. There are media talks that have been acknowledged by government of KwaZulu-Natal that they are now looking at repurposing and modernizing that industrial park. I would like your assistance in that area, because last time we looked at it was 2022, Thami, or 2021 in December. I would like offsite to touch base with you on that one, because our intention of that industrial park was it needed to be also repurposed as an agri-hub, speaking to what was planned as an agri-hub for Amajuba. And we marketed it to the right places. But I think outside this meeting, I'm requesting you to formally look into how they're planning to repurpose and modernize that industrial park. And with the KZN government, which is an institution of the DTI, Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, and Trade Invest, now having a team on how can we be part of that as the initiators? But this is outside this meeting. And then the last one, which I think applies to many people here, which is also linked to carbon and just energy transition. I think abaningi bethu, we're finding ourselves in communal land or in rural spaces where there is land available in different ownership. I just want to ask, because we are developing a project where I come from, as Zululand. We've put our own money there. We currently have about 104 people about with stipend who are on a 6-month stipend. We would like them, when they finish a 6-month stipend in agriculture, to migrate into a project. Now, we would like to be linked to the people who talk to the DTI to create an agri-hub or an agri-park phakathi emakhaya enhlazatshe, because we've put our own money in terms of planting. Now they are being taught how to do agriculture on a stipend. Question is their stipend is going to run out on the 31st of December. Where will they work in January? And therefore, we're going to have to book a session with you where you grab us with our hand and show us the rope. I think those are my questions, Nonkosi. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ndaba. Mr. Klassen?
Yeah, I think ngiyabonga put more questions, Martin. The first one, yes, I will imininingwane it's still the same, angaka change, which is in number, which will also help abaning 082 497 6336. And then if ninganithumela my WhatsApp or uNonkosi uzokwazi ukushare imininingwane yami in terms of email as well. I'm reachable with the email address. But also
082
497 6336. Yeah, use that one. There are two, but that one is much more reliable. It will always be there with me, that one. So on the first one, yes, we'll be able to have a look at that industrial park that you're referring to and see what we can do. It is our intention, of course, to bring in our industrial parks, work together in a province and other state-owned and also non-state-owned entities as well. We do work in these international organizations of Nabo UNIDO to bring into fruition all the work that we are doing around our industrial park, our eco-industrial park, which takes into cognizance, of course, the life of the people around where those industrial areas are located. And also, I think the eco-industrial approach as well has to do with ensuring that we do look into the resource utilization and management as well, water and the issues of green economy, green hydrogen, and also decarbonization, and looking at those opportunities and bringing the experts who can help with their systems and learning that they have acquired through implementations of similar projects elsewhere in the world. I think also on the second one, give me the keyword.
No, the second one is the fact ukuthi emakhaya we've taken advantage of our stipend abantu abafundisa agriculture.
Okay.
About 103 of them, but after December, if project comes to an end, we've identified a very nice area to create an agri hub or an agri park.
What we would want to advise is that you should understand that we need to work as a collective, because even DTIC, we don't have all the solutions for everything. So the approach that we are currently utilizing is that we bring together all the stakeholders. We now have an EMO, Department of Land Reform and Rural Development. The idea there is to make sure that through their programs of supporting what they are doing, what they are mandated to do, they are able as well to bring in our solutions to help our communities. That's the first thing. But secondly, we also, through economic cluster, we've got also going to the Department of Transport, which they are also able to make sure that to understand how do we help those projects reach, have access to a market through our logistics that are provided for and made sure that they are there, whether they be roads or rail or any other infrastructure, also water. How do we work together with all of these people to make sure that we have all these utilities provided for our communities? What I'm trying to emphasize is at the end of it all, we are then going to say, if we ask you and say, is your project feasible? We'll ask you somewhere, did you do izinto EIA, environment, and do you have traffic issues settled around the area where you want to locate? So we don't want to ask those things in a negative way, where we say you don't have this, go and do this. But we want to do it in such a way that we work together as the state. One of the pillars of the state is that we need to build a capable state. Now, a capable state means that all the state organs have to work together. And this is it's in view of what we are saying together we are doing. So a capable state is made out of every other organ of the state working together. So that when we say we need you to have a feasible or a viable business, a bankable business case, I should have played my role in making sure that you reach that stage of a bankable business case. I don't want to, you would Mofia anytime. We cannot help because this you don't have, because that you don't have. But I must make sure that we handhold you and work with those communities to link them with the markets, to make sure that the goods or commodities that they are developing or generating or producing is actually of good quality. Where the quality lacks, we have to bring in the key stakeholders. The most important thing is that when you have a vision and you've got people that are passionate, it must be driven through as a business. What I discourage people to do is to just be there on a basis that they are doing projects. We have to eliminate that ideology all the time that we are doing projects. When we get involved with people, even in that project, although there's a common collection of grants, etc., it's a very good thing. There's a basis through which the livelihood of people is are met through that system where there's money exchange, they're able to fend themselves. But we need to look beyond that into saying, how do you strengthen that in making sure that the money that is collected, some is saved towards a business venture, and how do we bring in people to say, these are the things that we have done. Stella, when I must fage uzuga, now ufage u20 cents, so that lento le iye phambili. People are more willing to help the many investors, and many of some of these sort of angel sort of investors, aspirant investors, they are always looking at what have the communities themselves, that project, those people that have got a dream to do certain things, what have they contributed bona on their own. So I think there is opportunity there for us to work together and for us to assist you as well there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Klassen. So I'm glad you have shared your number. Let's move straight to Thabo Mahlejwane. And then thereafter to the iPhone. I don't know whose iPhone is that. And Lingema. Thabo, please unmute. Yes.
Hello. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Two questions that I have for Mr. Klassen. One, there is an G20 summit that is coming up. There's a segment which speaks about township and rural SMEs. How do we take part or get involved in that, particularly as organizations like Mandla Mnoto? Secondly, you spoke about manufacturing. I know there's a big drive around funding of in that space. How do we get into what are the requirements of being funded under the manufacturing space? Because what I know is that there's a cap of about 50 million rands in that space. But what requirements are needed? You know, is it a loan? Is it a grant? Yeah. Yeah, that's my question. Thank you so much.
Mr. Klassen, thank you.
Yes, there are a number of initiatives under EG20. One of them being B20. Some of them also are involving enterprises and different segment finances and investments, you know, focusing different areas as well. So I can ask and find out from my colleagues. I have not been able to attend one of the meetings which was conducted, I think, under the auspices year B20, you know, which was getting enterprises and SMMEs involved. But I know every one of the provinces do contribute. I know that in EKZN, through DTIC, there is a desk and people that are dealing with that consolidating work that would come from the province and making sure that it finds expression in that common forum that is taking place at G20. So what I would advise would be probably to get hold of TIKZN and get some of the information that would assist towards you participating. But I don't think it's a complicated thing. people have been participating in those workshops, informing what they seek to be, what they seek to see happening. There are other enterprises that I've been dealing with who have put on their expression to do traditional clothing to supply for those, it's a case that they are aggressively pushing so that they can see that it does take place there. So I think those opportunities do exist, but I can find out from my colleagues that are dedicated to working with G20. It's been a complicated animal somewhere, but I know it's coordinated in the fashion that I have said. KZN, Gauteng is it's done by certain people, Limpopo, etc., by e-leader. So, but those are mechanisms. And the second one you said was around, remind me.
The funding around the manufacturing space.
Yes, the funding around the manufacturing space. Now, that one, again, I don't want it to sound like it's a barrier, one, what I'm going to say. And secondly, that it's something that's not attainable. But, the common thing that I personally usually advise people based on the work that we're doing, make sure you have got a full bankable business case. So nobody can doubt you if you know what you want to do. Why are you setting up what you want to do? What's your experience in that? Who are you involved with? Now, people usually want to ask for 30 million, and yet they give something that's financial, are convincing. I show you, Guti, how will they pay back the money? What is the funding structure and approach of that project? So those are things that are a recipe for making you to fail, because you would know, even if you go to any bank, you would be required to ask for those things. Now, our manufacturing fund, or also our Black Industrialist Fund, which also funds some of the manufacturing assets and infrastructure of business, part of it has got a grant element. The Black Industrialist can give you up to 50 million, but it depends how much you've invested on that. And they're looking at projects that you have capitalized your project with, should be at least 30 million. However, there are other programs that you find with NEF, NAGO ITC. They are able not to fund only 50 million or only 20 million, but they can fund also even lesser amount than that. But what you're going to have is the equity that you must demonstrate and the ability of you, that is your business, to be sustainable beyond the phase that you are saying, I would want to have this amount of money. So equity, your skin in the game must be wholly visible. And it must be worth it. Somebody must be able to quantify it. Usually people would say, I have put in X amount of money. When they ask you how, where is it, you can't demonstrate it, then that most of those applications will fall flat, because people can't say, I have put a foundation, here is it. These are people who built it. These are the proof of people, receipts that paid for it. Therefore now I am stuck. I need to take the building up to build the roof, and these are my costs that are remaining. You need to demonstrate those kind of things. If I've got to use just those basic elementaries in demonstrating the case of equity, that's usually make or break for most of these projects. And what will sustain that project is, of course, in codes, your guaranteed market, because if you can demonstrate that I have got people that have said are committed to get these produce from me, or commodities from me that I will be producing for the next 10 years, and these are what will make those to be reachable to those guys, to be quite good to the guys that will be receiving them, are these 1, 2, 3 elements. So people will be able to see that, okay, this project has got value, let's then support it. So those basic things are what I have seen in my experience make most of these projects to fail and not to be supported because they can't demonstrate the basic things. So work as much as you can. And about markets, again, I must say that they are not something that's unattainable. Networks that you have around Amandla Omnoto, it's also part of those networks that you need to develop, and even beyond that. But it's one market, one contact linked to the other. He knows 3 people, the 3 people know in combined, there be no 12 people. So that's how the word of mouth, and we must try to quantify and add value to those relationships so that we can see a return of what we've been doing in terms of formulating this business plan, pursuing the dreams that you want to do. But we are available, of course, and I can also lead you to some of the contacts that are working on the different schemes, and they can give you their insights into what exactly is needed on each of these schemes, even on the agro-processing scheme, on the manufacturing one, and also colleagues at the agencies that we work with. Thank you.
Much, my brother. We've got about 7 minutes left, and I would like us to wrap up. I see there's just one last hand, the iPhone. If we can have that, thank you. Unmute, Miss or Mr. iPhone. So I'm sorry, I don't have the name.
Okay, no, sure. Thank you so much. It's a Mr.
Thank you so much.
And I did not put iPhone there to break colleagues. I'm just a bit technologically disadvantaged.
That's okay.
Yes, Chair. No, Chair. I just have a few questions around the rural economy. Number one, Chair, is that there was made mention about AI, and the fact that AI is here, that AI has a potential to create new jobs and do away with old jobs. Now the question, Chair, is from a skills development point of view, what are we doing to beef up, right, the rural, the rural skills capacity or gap? So what programs, does DTIC, maybe through one of the agencies? I remember the NEF had a rural fund once upon a time. I'm not sure if maybe it still exists, whereby they were able to finance, projects, in rural areas. And I'm saying that, Chair, because some companies, do have, skills development centers, but they just lack the funding, that has to, be put in there in order for people to be upskilled, in particular in AI, right? So that we don't miss that gap. And then, Chair, another question, is also around around AI as well, because so many times we go to our areas and then we tell them about AI and automation in the future, but those people don't have basic infrastructure. They still don't have roads. They still don't have toilets, plumbing, electricity. So so what also projects is the DTIC through again its agencies trying to which projects are there that that people like us can come in and assist the DTIC in filling that gap. There are some funds that are overseas, that are there for infrastructure, but they always want to see, as the gentleman was speaking, skin in the game, and this skin in the game can always come from the DTIC, in most cases. And then, Chair, just a comment about carbon credits, is that there's a similar tax regime as well in the country, that's called Section 12J. Maybe, Chair, we can also have a session around Section 12J and how in rural areas can we tap into into Section 12J, in order for us to see our energy becoming more green, right? And then as well for people in rural areas also benefit from from tax regimes such as Section 12J. Chair, thank you. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you so much. Sorry, you didn't say your name, my brother.
Oh, okay. No, my name is Ayavuya. Madwa.
Ayavuya. Okay. I
Yes.
wonder if Section 12J is still existing. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
is it still existing, right?
Oh no, I'm sorry, Chair. Yes, Section 12J is out, but there's Section 12B,
Okay.
which is gonna lapse in 2030.
Okay, no, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, because I knew that it was canned. Thank you so much. Maybe just before, Mr. Klassen, before you answer, let me just take this very last question, and then we wrap up. Clearly? Clearly, can you please unmute and then speak?
Hello, Nongos.
Okay, I don't seem to get Clearly, even though her hand is up. Mr. Marange?
Yes, Nongos. You have thrown the button. I hope your journey to France was very fruitful. I've taken the button, and I would like us to meet Mr. Klassen on behalf of all our Amanga Omnoto markets in the German market, how he can assist. And then before I leave, right now I'm in the Free State, waiting to talk to you because I'll be going to our program. You know the program, and visiting farmers around here who are preparing for our turmeric project to the German market. So I met the sisters. Tomorrow we'll be showing them. They'll be showing us some land where they want to start. And our sisters, you know, one of them is already waiting for me in Germany. The Catholic wants to do something here to assist Amanga Omnoto through the church and so on. So I'm busy putting together what Mr. Klassen was saying in terms of convincing markets as well as costs and what they would have done and what each of our people have contributed towards what we want to do, Nongos. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Maranga. I think Mr. Klassen is noting that maybe we'll have a session separate with him regarding some of the German markets and see what role he can play as the DTIC. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Klassen. To answer Ayavuya, it was the AI as well as AI and automation. What projects? How do you help special rural areas? Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you very much. And thank you very much to Dr. Maranga for that invitation. Definitely, I would love to engage further. And I know and I've read that you're doing quite great work. I think it's time that we also see how we synergize by identifying to broaden those markets and through the projects that are on the ground, as we would find them in the different provinces where the different products that you're looking for can be grown and then sent there. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I think on the questions that I have here, and I also need to comment on the second one, the green energy or the green economy one. I would say, you know, in as much as we would want some sessions to be held and things, we need to start identifying programs and test those and run with them. We need to learn and learn fast. So we need to do quite a lot of things, learn but be implementing at the same time so that we don't over-involve ourselves in a lot of elongated discussions and planning. I know for a fact there are quite a number of companies that are milking it, if I can use the term, milking it. And I meet the past week we had a session with Chris Yellen around the issue of the carbon credits and green energy and battery storage the other time. So things are happening. People are identifying markets. There's a lady who's based, I think, in New York or LA, I forgot. She used to work for DBSA in the presidency at one stage, and she's driving those markets. And she told us categorically that, you know, South Africa is really underplaying itself when it comes to these issues of green economy. They could help and get these developmental funds through carbon credits. These are systems that are there, and she's worked on these things. So I want to emphasize, Let's learn and learn very fast and put projects on the ground. Now, on the things of AI and automation or digitization, once again, that's also it has become like a more of a rhetoric, but it's there. This thing is fast upon us. Let's look at how just the social media through AI as well has transformed it. There's so many things which we didn't think could be done that are now being done with ease today. So when you think of it, we should first look at what challenges we have and look at what a need we are addressing through the possible solutions that we will be providing. I'll make mention, which is a common known thing to all of us. The rural communities, almost everyone of those that are farmers, they've got a phone and a smartphone to that extent. And we know that it has been said there are communities that are using, I think it's a community in Kenya and in Rwanda, and there's another third community, but they are using their telephone to really resolve on the ground issues around agriculture in terms of pest control, in terms of yields, in terms of markets, knowing what the cost of some of the commodities that they are selling, grains, and that also gives them a leverage in terms of when to sell and when not to sell and who to sell to, all those kind of things, so that they are not easily manipulated by the markets. Those are solutions that we need to bring. Now, if we're a country, again, that's having more than 67% or 70% youth unemployment, and we know the agility of the minds of the young people, how they work, it shouldn't be really robotics for us to find solution on how to utilize those minds through the digital economy, giving those skills. Now, what we have done, our part is the DTIC, we are making sure that in every one of our industrial parks, we are going to have what we call a digital hub. It's a hub that provides small offices for people that would come and want to do some of their meetings, but also engage with some of the SMMEs or their clients around issues of the digital space, whatever markets they want to do, convincing some of their clients and things like that. So you'll give some space to those. But key to that, you'll also be building skills. We want to do coding, robotics, the virtual world of the creative arts and things like that. Oftentimes we think rural communities cannot play a role in the area of creative arts, that's film and everything. There are many films that are made in the rural communities with a rural setting. So imagine those things must be set there. People must come from the rural community, set some of these things up and show some of these things that are happening. There's many documentaries that can be done and which can be sellable. In our day and time, media plays a very critical thing. So the digital platforms, as we seek to develop them, have got their source and inspiration from ordinary people, ordinary youth, young people that are located in the very many of these communities. So ours is the DTIC. We put together that infrastructure in terms of building and fitting it with the requisite staff. Obviously, in all of these areas, because I'm referring to industrial parks and oftentimes the agri parks as well, you'd find that it will be supported by the number of businesses that are there, because you do need an anchor sort of driver in terms of making sure that estate is sustainable going forward. But you then make sure that if you've got those kind of platforms where you put in that infrastructure for the digital, we go to small business, we also go to the Department of Telecommunication, and also some of these companies like Google, Oracle, we've got, and Microsoft. Those are companies through their what we call equity equivalence funding. We are able to talk to them to look into supporting and putting the equipment inside those digital spaces, which could be utilized for training, skilling, and all of those. Obviously, this is a process. We must make sure that the area that's desiring to put a digital hub, it's able to satisfy, it's able to have the use that will come there. But these are things that will make me to be, if I'm let's say I'm in an area like Bochabelo in the Free State, I'm able to reach people in the rural communities who are doing certain agro-processing stuff there. I'm able to talk to my markets, who is Dr. Maran in Germany as an example. So those are the linkages. They are basic things, but we all need to make sure that we play our role in making sure we create those things. We provide that funding as a DTIC CIP for that, through CIP for that infrastructure. Small business have got a funding through which we are now collaborating also in making sure that they contribute for the equipment there. And also the private business, like I've mentioned, they have played a role. Two of our digital hubs, one in Seshego and another one in I just forgot the other one. Where is it? But two of those have been funded through funding that was made available through the fund that I'm calling equity equivalent to kit the inside of the digital hub itself. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Klassen. I know we cannot exhaust all of these queries and answers regarding this very interesting subject that you've just spoken about. Colleagues, allow me to bring this to the closure in terms of the presentation that Mr. Klassen has made. I'm going to, Thami, share, my brother, your email address with your permission as you have requested with the people, members, so that I will try and write it here. Actually, it's tklassen@dtic.gov.za. I'm going to write it down so that those that want to be in touch with you can do so. You've already given them your mobile number. Thank you so much. And then we'll share the email address as well. Maybe your parting shot as we release you. I know you're on the road so that you can be able to drive home safely.
No, look, I'm back home now at least.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Yeah, no, look, I think what I would really urge us to do is just to have more focus on implementation.
Thank
And leave just these long stories of why things cannot be done. Let's start to have a mindset of why things should be or must be done. And if we start from that angle, all of us, whoever we bring to our engagement, we know we've got difficult conversations and things that currently we can't work with in the country, whether one would say water, there's no enough water, there's not enough energy, but let's bring solutions to every one of our problems. If we adopt that attitude and work together as we do, let's promote this thing of working through a trust format as Omandla Omnoto, through a blockchain format. Yeah, so that would be my parting shot. And thank you very much for hosting me today and really for taking the questions as well and the input and the insights given.
Well done,
Thank you so much,
well done, sir. That is a very good attitude. Implementation. That's what Nonkos is always saying. And I'm glad you share the same vision.
Thank you, Dr. Marange. I think please follow up with Mr. Klassen. You do have his contact details so that we can look at that. On that note, colleagues, we're talking implementation. I won't have to repeat this. My colleagues have said a mouthful. Remember, we spoke about the gated estates. 100 sites, 70 sites have been sold. We're putting our gated estates. We're moving every rural areas. And as a matter of fact, I'm sitting at Nongoma right now. We have got what we call Itlalankosi development, the Nongoma we want. I encourage you to do the same in your own small town. Gather of professionals, people who are from the area, in the town, and do something in your own space. We can't be talking endlessly, as well as many other programs. And I've got Mr. Ndlovu here, as well as Mr. Golko, just briefly, especially Mr. Golko, to tell us about where we are at regarding the Rural Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I must emphasize that I'm excited. We started last year in Eswatini, Mr. Klassen. Today, we are launching the new factory, which is going to be operational, first factory to produce shoes in the whole of Eswatini in March next year. And two, we are launching a project which is biodiesel biofuel, which is $480 million next year. I'm talking practical stuff here that we are dealing with. And that factory is going to be having the feedstock of moringa. That's why when we are saying we want people to subscribe, I mean, 45 Rand, the lowest, to help us drive this vision, a monthly subscription on the Rural Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which covers everything else. If you want just to be an ordinary member, we'll still share the information, but for those that wants to grow the moringa and other stuff, we'll only look at those that have subscribed and have become members. So may I, on this note, hand over to Mr. Golko, just briefly for a minute, tell us where we're at, how many people have registered so far, encourage people to register.
Thank you, Mr. Nkosi. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Klassen, for such a wonderful session we've had. It was really insightful and informative. I will speak on our state with regards to the registrations. I must say that we received about 200 interests from people that wanted to register and become members of the Rural Chamber of Commerce. And at this point in time, we are sitting with about 7 memberships that have registered. So it is quite disappointing at the moment. And while we are being encouraged to work in numbers. And I think just to highlight a few things with regards to people becoming members. One of the emphasis that Mr. Klaba made was that it makes it easier for him and anyone who is working within the Rural Chamber to form organizations and to form businesses. And also with the likes of the DTIC, Mr. Klassen, if they want to do a rollout plan of some project, it makes it easier for them to come to the Rural Chamber and say, we want to do a project in KwaZulu-Natal, in Limpopo, in this region of Limpopo. And then when we have those numbers, when we have those details, because we need to have clean data. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in being able to implement solutions or any business initiatives is not having clean data. Furthermore, it is not having the correct business plans. When we have business plans, it makes it easy for the funding organizations to fund our projects. And what would make that easy for us is if we work in power. Like he mentioned, Mr. Klassen mentioned something that we need to work together. And what working together allows us to do is to have certain solutions or bring solutions that will be able to help us to make or to request funding as we need. And I think one of the benefits in becoming a member on the Rural Chamber is that we would offer services for business plans. And that is what actually speaks to what Mr. Klassen is saying, because our business plans will be structured in a way that will speak to wherever the funder is, and also will speak about what we want to achieve and where we are in a manner that will allow us to have access to whatever funding we need as well as a group. So I just want to encourage everyone to assist us or to join the Rural Chamber of Commerce, become a member. Mr. Klaba mentioned that it is quite cheap, 46 rands a month. I mean, it's what you buy your coffee on a daily basis with, and this is the minimum you could have access to our Rural Chamber. Platform is there, it's working, we are able to see your details, and we are able to give you information, the right information as you need as a member. So I just want us to encourage us to do that. And also, this helps us in implementing what we have always been presenting. We said we wanted to know how people are grouped and where people are and who in where, or I mean, in where, which place are doing what. So it answers, it helps becoming a member also assist in us answering questions to say, we have 100 people doing agro-processing in KwaZulu-Natal. We have 50 people in the Northern Cape. We have 20 people that are doing IT in Gauteng, so that it is easy for us to then go and say, we need to balance out the scale. If we want to balance out, or if we want to help other people, upskill other people, we know where to go to. It helps us as a rural chamber, and that is us working together in achieving a common goal, because our goal as a rural chamber, it is to include our rural communities into the bigger scale of the economy. And we will not be able to do that if we do not have members. If you look at how other organizations or how other races excel, they form organizations, and those organizations build universities for them. Those organizations are able to go to the likes of America and speak with the presidents. So we need to be able to do things like those, where we are able to go as the rural communities and say, we want to change or want to build organizations that are helpful for us, or we want to, our economy to be within our hands, not somebody else's hands. In the near future, we will see that we will see malls starting to roll out in the rural areas, and like we've seen in the townships. And if you ask me, how many people really in those communities own those malls that are in the townships, you'll find that there are very few. And why? It is because there are people who understand that economy lies in numbers. So we have the numbers, and with our numbers, we can't be able to solve the problems we have. So I think 9 members. I would love to see more members grow in our databases, in our systems. I think that is what I would like to encourage us to do. Back to you, Nonkosi. And then if you want to join, thank you, Mr. Ndlovu. Mr. Ndlovu has shared the link. If you want to join, you go to https ruralchamber.co.za and membership. And the process is seamless. If you have any issues, you can send your email to info@ruralchamber.co.za. We'll be able to attend to any issues you have. So we would like to grow together. Let us grow together. I love that, Tando. Let us grow together. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Kajeni, thanks for sharing that. I think, Mr. Gorko, it's been a mouthful. I think I couldn't have put it better. That is the exact vision. And that's why we want to grow together and seriously do great things together. We want to make sure that when we plead our cases, right now people are marching and doing all sorts of things, and I appreciate that, because they are exercising their democratic right to do all of those things. But here we are talking implementation. We are talking practically getting to know how to ensure that once we have lobbied, we have got plans in place, and whatever we lobbied for in terms of resources fall exactly onto our plans, and we're able to see these things manifesting in front of our eyes. It's all about that, colleagues. So please join in numbers, join the Rural Chamber, subscribe, be a member. There's more issues and more things coming, believe you me. What we have just touched on is just the tip of the iceberg. And we are not going to be saying more here, because we want people who are saying, now we are ready to work and put our shoulders on this thing. Thank you so very much. I think we may as well end it here, and appreciate every one of you for having come through. And the meeting is adjourned. Have a good week. Oh, by the way, before I do, African Bank asked me to tell you that they are still going to come back here. Remember, they were here with us about a couple of weeks ago. They were bringing their experts to talk about what else needs to be done and how do they fund. And I'm glad that they funded one business, which is worth, I think, over 15 million rand instantly from among the members. And now they are coming in to fund more. They are in the pipeline, other projects that are going to be funded. So African Bank definitely is going to be coming and to assist you as an entrepreneur. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Nonkos.
Yes, siyabonga, Nonkosi.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Sibonga, Mr. Chair and the team.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.